All right, it's episode 7 of Tuesdays with Perry. So let's get Perry on the line.
Hello.
Hey Perry, welcome back to the podcast. How you doing today?
Rudy, I tell you what, it's great living in free Florida. What more do I have to offer than that?
All right, so this week I want to talk about obviously what's on everybody's lips, which is the Dark Brandon speech and some comments made by your governor, Ron DeSantis. And then I want to talk a little bit about Chelsea and Hillary Clinton have a new special on Apple Plus TV called Gutsy that's going to give them some exposure for their political ambitions. And then if we have time at the end, we're going to talk a little bit about Google's Play Store banning Truth Social, or at least seems to be a ban at this juncture. So first off, Perry, I want to start off by reading from Florida Politics here. So Ron DeSantis, your governor, denounces American Nero Joe Biden and says that Joe Biden's Dark Brandon speech was one of the most disgusting speeches an American president has ever given. He said, I thought it was one of the most disgusting speeches American president has ever given. He ran being a unifier, and he's basically saying to the vast majority of the country that disapproves of him that they're effectively a threat to the public. Governor DeSantis goes on to say, I think he's doing this because he's trying to energize his base to fend off a real butt whipping this November. And then finally says, it's been said that the president of the United States is whoever's feeding the teleprompter. They fed the teleprompter in Philadelphia last night, referring to the speech on Thursday. He angrily delivered that speech and lashed out at his fellow countrymen. And most people know that Peter Doocy cornered Joe Biden afterwards and asked him if he meant what he said. And Joe Biden said he didn't say any of those things. And your governor DeSantis closed this article out by saying on the Ingram angle on Fox, but they quote him here as saying, but they're tweeting from his account the same nasty stuff that he said last night. And so I think the people that are in control of the White House want to drive this message that the people who dissent from his policies are somehow second-class citizens. Perry, what do you think of your governor's comments? What do you think of Joe Biden's crazy red Hitler speech? I don't know what you want to call it. Definitely a Dark Brandon speech. What do you think about all this? I mean, this is the president of the United States picking a fight with his detractors in half the country.
Well, Rudy, you know, there are several things that go through my mind. So let me take them one at a time. Let's first talk about Governor DeSantis. Governor DeSantis is showing the people of our great country that he's ready to lead the entire nation, not just one state. There are so many things he could have said about that speech, but chose not to, because he does not want to give the lame brain media anything to chew on. So what I mean by that is, knowing what Biden said about anyone who did not and will not vote for him was in essence a call to war, not for us to pick up arms, but to rally his troops. I'm talking about the people who hold the torches and the pitchforks, the ones who, like, if you recall, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I encountered such a miscreant when having dinner with friends of mine from Texas several weeks ago. I'm talking about those people. Why is he doing that? Because regardless of what the so-called polls, and that's something that I think your listeners should take notice of, regardless of what the national polls say about Biden's ratings going up. The only reason, there's two reasons why that would be the case. Number one, because of how they weight the poll, meaning how many Republicans versus how many Democrats versus how many unaffiliated independent voters. And historically, most national polls overweight the Democrats, underweight the Republicans, and likewise underweight, but not as severely as Republicans, those who are independent. So there's that, there's the type of questions they ask, and then they draw their conclusions. They already know the outcome of what they're going to get, so rarely are they surprised. And the other reason for doing this is to, as you, I think, alluded to rally his base. Why are they having to rally his base? Because nobody, whether it's the 18 to 29-year-olds or whether it's the 30 to 45-year-olds or the 46 to 60-year-olds or those who are above age 60, every demographic, and regardless of race and regardless of income strata, all his numbers have tanked. So he has nowhere to go but up. And that's another reason why you're seeing what you're seeing in the polls. That is another reason why he gave the speech he gave, or shall I say, the people pulling the strings behind the curtain gave the speech that they wanted the people to hear. Because I honestly believe Uncle Joe has lost so much of his ability to know what day of the week it is, that after he got done reading what's on the teleprompter, not only did he forget about it, because they were not his own words, because they were scripted, he really believed it when he said to Peter Doocy, "I never said that." It's not the first time he has made such a false statement. And I guarantee you, this, along with everything else that he has done throughout his political career, but specifically for the year and a half he has been commander-in-chief, all of this is going to come back to haunt him.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you betcha. You betcha. So we love your governor. Everybody loves your governor, Ron DeSantis. I know you want to keep him as governor. ABC News is reporting back on the 1st of September that Ron DeSantis shrugs off 2024 speculation, but he's building a national GOP fan base. And an ex-aide said he is in no hurry as he focuses on conservative credentials. So it seems like he's not interested in running, and it seems like he's supporting MAGA and America First policies. So I want to talk a little bit about 2024, not on the Republican side, but on the Democratic side. I unfortunately reported yesterday from CBS News, they had a feature on Chelsea and Hillary Clinton that apparently on the heels of their 2019 book, Gutsy, that they are getting an Apple TV Plus special called Gutsy, where they interview different women across the country who are apparently gutsy. And but it seems like just a political vehicle or a vehicle for their political ambitions, either to extend the Clinton dynasty by trying to get Chelsea involved in politics, or for a possible 2024 run by Hillary Clinton for the president or for the Democratic nomination. You also have some thoughts about the Democratic ticket in 2024. Why don't you tell me what you're thinking? Who do you think the Democrats are going to be putting up?
Well, I think there's a dark horse in the stable. And yes, that was a double entendre. Yeah. And I think she's getting ready to buck. And that is none other than the angry black woman herself, Michelle Obama. There have been people throughout the past year who have thrown her name out as a possible candidate. I will tell you, she is never going to see the political discussion until after the oncoming presidential primary season that the Democrats will ultimately have. Whether Uncle Joe wants to be the next Jimmy Carter, and I never thought I would say that, but if he's going to be the next Jimmy Carter, he is going to face a challenge from someone who is competent, not someone like his incompetent vice president. The reason why I think it will be Obama to save the day for the DNC is very simple. If you take the time to listen to what the black separatist movement is saying, they are adamant about Kamala being given the opportunity to sit in the Oval Office. And if you pull her out, whether it's before the 2024 election or if you don't give her a shot as a candidate, if Uncle Joe is so humiliated by then that he has no choice but to step down, then you better well have a black woman to run in her place.
Right.
Because if you don't, if you think for 1 minute the uninformed black women who have suffered at the hands of this incompetent administration are going to come out and support another white woman or man, you got another thing coming.
Right.
And the Democrats cannot win unless they have 90% of an enthusiastic black vote.
Right. Unfortunately, I don't know if she'd be recognized as the first woman president. It would be a first woman president asterisk, sort of like the Joe Biden asterisk administration.
Are you saying that she is the first trans woman in the history of the American political world?
I didn't say it. Joan Rivers said it. Oh, and then she died. That was weird.
Yeah, and it's amazing because she was only in for minor surgery. How about that?
Yeah, that happens. So I want to move on to the next subject here, which is Google has what seems to be banned Truth Social from their platform, from the Play Store, which is where people download apps from for Google phones or Android phones. And so I wanted to get your take on that. It seems that Google, well, what they said was Google thinks Truth Social does not have strong enough TOS or does not enforce their TOS in regards to hate speech and violent rhetoric and so on and so forth. So it doesn't look like they're going to put it into the Play Store. I believe sort of that it is election interference because here you have the former president who was fronting a lot of candidates in the midterms now are not going to be able to promote those candidates on his platform, Truth Social, on Android phones. So what do you think of that, Perry?
Well, Rudy, I'll tell you, I was not surprised of such underhandedness. I was surprised that they were magnanimous enough to actually put Truth Social on the platform in the first place because they are so diametrically opposed to free speech that they use the least example. And I'll give you one. You make fun of the way somebody looks today, and now that's hate speech. And so when you have such a corrupt understanding of what hate speech is, therefore anybody who is allowed on a platform such as Truth Social to speak their mind and make fun of the way an individual is dressed or make fun through the use of memes about Uncle Joe, well, now that's considered hate speech by liberals. So with that being the case, that being their thinking, why would they even allow Truth Social in the first place? All Truth Social did was give them an opportunity to find something, and it's not hard to do. It's just like any district attorney going in front of a grand jury. The old saying is, you can indict a ham sandwich with a grand jury if you want to. And so it's the same thing here. There is no fairness whatsoever. It's whatever they wanted it to be. They found an excuse, so now they take it off. And
well, I don't think it was on in the first place. I think it had been originally on Apple, and it's been kind of in limbo. It was my understanding that it's been in limbo as far as the place, because I was waiting for it to come on the PlayStation, the Play Store, because I have an Android, and I was waiting for it to come on because they didn't really have a desktop version either, and so I never think it was on. I just think they said, nah, we're not going to have it. I think it's just it again. It shows the tech giants for what they are. It's a monopolistic corporate oligarchy that is shutting down political speech, which is the most protected type of speech. I mean, that's what
not
gets
anymore.
Yeah, that's what gets
not anymore.
That's what gets me, is that the framers made it perfectly clear that the reason for free speech is for political speech. And political speech should be the most protected. So I don't really know how they even get away with this at all. And you talked about people considering what's hate speech, because why we're in the milieu we're in now is because people, the postmodernists, all think subjectively. Oh, it hurts my feelings, so it's bad. It's not an objective. Correct. It used to be objective, where everyone would say, oh, did you find that offensive? Nah, not really. Well, I didn't either. I didn't. Well, that person did, so,
right.
They're in the minority. I mean, everybody could find something offensive about something, but that's why comedians can't make a living anymore, because, 90% of the people in the audience might not find it offensive, but you get that one person, and then they're going to look to get you canceled. It's just ridiculous.
Right. And all of this goes back to the early 1990s when Donna Shalala proudly announced that there was going to be a way that someone could give speech on campus. And, I don't want, you don't have the time to go into this today, but just very briefly, that's where the term political correctness came from. It came from the brain trust at the University of Wisconsin when Shalala was in charge of that school more than 30 years ago. And it was at that time that then President George Herbert Walker Bush had to tailor his speech in such a way so that it would be approved by the brain trust there. Huh. And since then, it's just grown to the point of where it is today, where, right. If I look at you funny, well, then I'm a hater.
Right.
And that's where we're at.
Oh, yeah. Well, this has been coming down the pike now since the 30s, really. I mean, people don't really understand, but, the knuckleheads there at the Frankfurt School have been bringing this for a long time now, and it's slowly made its way to its fruition today, where you have a bunch of subjective knuckleheads thinking that whatever they believe is the truth. And unfortunately, we still live in an objective reality. So it's really frustrating. So, I mean, how can you convince somebody who's convinced in their own mind that something is either offensive or the truth or whatever, or a conspiracy theory? It's hard to argue with these folks, and that's why most people say, forget arguing with them, just move on, keep putting your message out there and just kind of move on.
Well, I do tend to agree with that thinking, but I also I think it's vital beginning with us and moving down to the 2 generations nearest our generation. We have to restore, and I'm going to use the word restore, common sense in how we go about communicating with one another when there is a disagreement.
Reason.
When we were in reasoning. When we were in elementary school, somebody made fun of you, and you went to the teacher and you said, "Wah wah, somebody's making fun of me." The teacher would respond, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me."
Right.
We need to go back to teaching that type of value to people.
Right.
If I have to worry about what somebody says about me, then I obviously don't think very much of myself.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why when people make any type of derogatory statement to me, I turn around and say to them, "Yeah, that may be true, but I can lose weight, but tomorrow you'll still be ugly."
Yeah.
And and of course that sets them off, and now I'm the hater, but I don't care. And that's the point that I'm making here. We have to try to instill those values.
Yeah, words aren't violence. And no matter what you say to me, you'll never convince me that words are violence. So,
well, I mean, Uncle Joe can say whatever he wants about us, right?
Right. Words are violence, but they know we're not going to come back with that because it's not reasonable. It's not rational. It's not.
That's right.
It's not what brought Enlightenment thinking to where it is it has to be reasoned out. It's got to be objective, and everybody's got to agree what reality is. You got to be met halfway. You know, when meet in the middle. That's what compromise is, and that's what reality is. So I just wish more people would do that. I'm going to cut it there, Perry. So I'll tell you what, we'll get together next week. We'll bring up some more topics, and we'll give it another go. Episode 8 next week. Episode 7 today. We'll see you next week, Perry. Thanks again.
You got it, Rudy.
All right. Thanks, man. Good to see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. That was something. That was great. Pensacola Perry back on the podcast discussing his wonderful, wonderful governor, Ron DeSantis. Everybody is just really impressed with what that governor is doing down in Florida. I know I am. So we'll see. It doesn't look like he's going to run in 2024. It looks like we're going to have Trump, God willing, and he'll either run against Hillary Clinton. Oh my God, please, no. Or maybe Chelsea Clinton, or maybe Michelle Obama. We'll see. And we'll keep pressing Google to get True Social on the Play Store. All right, I'll see everybody tomorrow. And for those of you just tuning in to listen to Perry, I'll see you next week.